We're going to have a break after the discussion on the champion hurdle, and we will be having a few words from Cindy and Pieta House as well. But before we go to the break, we're going to talk about what possibly is one of the great races of the festival, and undoubtedly this year's renewal has so much strength and depth. But I'm going to start with you, Brian Flanagan, for the eulogy on Hurricane Fly. I mean, what can you say? 2 champion hurdles, 19 grade ones, won millions of euro in prize money, and some people probably fell out of love with him when he lost the champion hurdle in 2012, but I think he's got all his admirers back.
Yeah, look, I think he's pretty much unbeatable around Leopardstown and probably Punchestown. The day he got beaten in Cheltenham 2 years ago, I think the race wasn't run. They overturned, ran that day and went off like a scalded cat, and kind of ran the finish out of Hurricane Fly. I think Hurricane Fly's big strength is his turn of foot, which I think he's a very good flat horse. He has an awesome turn of foot, which some of these national hunt horses can't live with. And that for me is the reason why Mullins is not going to run Undiskew, because I think he's afraid maybe that Undiskew might do what Overturn did and stretch the field out and make Hurricane Fly a little bit more vulnerable. As regards the race itself, it's very, very hard to call. I mean, it's a really, really tough race for punters, and not a race to get overly involved in my opinion, because I think any one of the top 4 could win it. Our Connor is probably the one who has the most scope for improvement, but he was well put in his place by Hurricane Fly at Leopardstown. So, and also, not to be harping on about jockeys, but there is the concern that Danny Mullins is very inexperienced around Cheltenham. I think he's only ridden around Cheltenham 11 times in his career, whereas Ruby Walsh has probably ridden 10,011 times. I think the new one will be Might Enter Yours. To sum it up, I think it's between Hurricane Fly and the new one, and depending on how the race pans out, if it turns into a test of stamina, I'd probably fancy the new one. If it's the usual story of 1,000 stars going off and dictating the pace and slowing it down and quickening up and slowing it down, well then Hurricane Fly will obviously be very hard to beat. But if you put a gun to my head, I'd probably pick the new one.
Okay, thanks Brian. Andrew, a couple of horses have won the Triumph and gone on to win the champion hurdle. Persian War did it in '68, Catchit did it. Can our Connor do it? Andy Mack, yeah.
Yeah, when you say a few horses did it, like when was Persian War?
That's 68.
And yes, that's one horse in 40 something years.
Catchit did it as well.
Alright, so
yeah,
2.
So two in 40 years.
Yeah, a couple have, say, running the Triumphs, been beaten the next year and come back and won, the likes of Binocular and Punjabi. And so I think our Connor maybe might be a next year's champion hurdle horse. I think a lot of people are making out that a stronger gallop, he'll be better in the champion hurdle. But if you watch both days, he comes down to the last looking like he's going to take Hurricane Fly and then gets out battled from the last home. So I can't really see why off a better gallop he's going to out battle Hurricane Fly, when it's a bigger test of stamina. Hurricane Fly doesn't look quite as good as he had other years, so I've a bit of a worry that he just mightn't be where he was, and it could be time for a new dawn coming through. That leaves the 2 English horses. They both look very good. There's very little between the 2 of them. Just because Might Enter Yours is a slightly bigger price, I'll go for him. I think there's very little between the 2 of them. And the one horse I wouldn't forget from the whole lot is Jeski. I know he's getting beaten in Leopardstown both times, but he's a lot of a bigger price. I don't think either race suited him in Leopardstown. The first day, Danny Mullins probably outrode Tony McCoy and got him boxed in, turned in, Tony to pull back and switch and come around. It happened on the day. I'm not sure it's going to happen every day, and then the last race was run at a ridiculously slow pace. Mark Walsh made the running, and Tony decided to settle Jeski, dropped him out last, and gave away a bit of ground to the others. But they went at a ridiculously slow pace. They went slower than the maiden hurdle that day, and when you're given 3 lengths to Hurricane Fly starting a sprint from the turn in, there's only going to be one outcome there.
And certainly when you say battling out a finish from the last, I mean, we saw, as you say, Hurricane Fly beating our Connor and out battling when he looked all over the winner coming to the last. But you're probably talking about twice the distance from the last hurdle in Cheltenham up the hill to the finish line as you are. So on that basis, he should definitely out battle, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should do. Now, Connor did step up when he went to Cheltenham last year. You know, he'd been very good in Navan and good in Leopardstown, but he did step up again when he went to Cheltenham. So I wouldn't be completely ruling him out, but he wouldn't be my choice.
Okay, thanks very much, Andy. Andrew Lynch, obviously our Connor, you know, he's on all known form. He can't beat Hurricane Fly, but I might enter yours has beaten the new one. So, you know, across the different form lines, who do you think is the horse most likely to threaten Hurricane Fly's dominance over the last few years?
I think the new one, he stays real well. Like he'll get close to Hurricane Fly anyway. I can't see him beating him. O'Connor, like he was beating fair and square the last day. Hurricane Fly missed the last, and he still won going away. So I don't think O'Connor will get close to him. My 10 to yours, he's a very good horse, but I think their new one will finish in front of him. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of pace. I'd say Jet Ski will probably end up making the run, and I think I'll play into Hurricane Fly's strength. I'd say Ruby will probably follow the new one and do him for toe.
Okay, Davey, how do you see the race panning out tactically?
I think he runs on a handicap. I think JP's other horse. Tactically, I don't know. Young Twiston Davis was saying all year long that he wasn't going to make the run-in with the new one, and he ended up in front of him good and early. I'm Hurricane Fly's #1 fan. I think he's unbeatable in Ireland. That's fairly obvious, bar for once. And but I do think that.
Sorry, David. Why do you think he got beaten in 2012? I mean, Ruby blames himself, but what do you think? Were there any factors there? Do you think that contributed to his defeat?
I'd say Ruby could blame whoever he wants because it didn't make any difference. The horse was beaten
fair and square,
passing the stands the first time. The whole way down the back, he was trying to shovel on cold. The horse was never going. I do think that he's a different horse in England than he is in Ireland, and I do think that he's going to get beaten this year. And I think it's between the new one and our Connor, and I don't know which one of them. Last year I said after the Sun Alliance, the new one beat me in the Sun Alliance. I said
he's a good horse.
He's a horse that's going to do something exceptional.
A lot of horses to win that race come out and win the champion hurdle. It's direct on it. Hardy Hughes has done it.
There's a good record. Actually, intrigued me. Nicky Henderson mentioned the fact that an awful lot of horses that have finished second in the Supreme Novices Hurdle have actually gone on and